You are now entering the horror Sanctum.
Hello, and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with John and Kellen, and dang it, would you look at that? Seems I wore my long legs today. And you know what that means. We're going to be talking about 2024 hit, directed by Osgood Perkins, Longlegs, starring Maika Monroe and the incomparable Nicolas Cage. This is a new movie. It's available for purchase on Amazon and some other platforms. So, as always, there will be spoilers. The movie centers around FBI agent Lee Harker as she's assigned to an unsolved serial killer case that takes an unexpected turn, revealing evidence of the occult. Harker discovers a personal connection to the killer and must stop him before he strikes again. I will say it again, spoilers. This movie had some of the best promotion I've seen for a film in a very long time. It was everywhere. And as we've mentioned in past episodes, when it's pushed that hard, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. Bad thing, we refer back to Talk to Me, a movie that everybody loves but us. I think even TJ, who's not here with us for this episode, he liked it. We didn't like it. It's 90-something% of the tomato meter. It was talked relentlessly. It was thrown in our faces, kind of like Joker is now, which John and I were texting. And I said, when I went to see Alien Romulus, I'm like, I don't want to see Joker anymore. Like when they announced it, I'm like, awesome. Lady Gaga, awesome. But I see it everywhere I fucking turn, and I'm kind of over it. The musical part kind of turned me off a little bit anyways. So them pushing Joker on me has turned me off. Them pushing Longlegs on me turned me on big time. They had billboards. They had a telephone number you could call. I didn't do that, but I'm pretty sure you heard his voice, Nicolas Cage, or someone trying to be him, creepy things about the movie. They made a website that looked like it was made in the 90s, where you could see the birthday. Was he birthday murders or the birthday killer, whatever he was called? He was called Longlegs. So it was the birthday murders. So you could scroll through that like you were, back in high school, middle school, and look at these pictures, crime scenes, and the which you can see in my background. He wrote in code or whatever, hieroglyphics that she had to decode. You could see all that on this website. It was phenomenal. So I had this feeling. I'm also a huge Nicolas Cage fan, but I still had this feeling like, is this going to be a disappointment? The first things I heard about it was like, it's kind of like Silence of the Lambs. I get that. I see the comparison there because we have an FBI agent. She's female. She's going after a serial killer in a man-led world. I get that comparison, but it is quite different too. I think the biggest difference is this is more supernatural. Not to the point where like, does he have supernatural powers? Blah, blah. I mean, it's straight up supernatural. And they don't really play on that in the previews, which is good too, because people were complaining like, you see everything in the preview. You do see a lot, but you also don't see a lot. So bravo to Neon and whoever was in charge of promoting this film, because you did a fantastic job. So well that I went to the theaters to see this for different reasons. One, I was excited. Two, I didn't want it to be spoiled. And this is a movie that you can see everywhere. Same thing with Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, that was going to get spoiled for everybody because that's just how we are, because we suck as a people. But I don't go to the theaters often anymore because I rather just wait a couple weeks and then watch it at home or watch it on my iPad at work. So I actually went and I left joyous. Like I'm like, this is a movie that was crammed down my throat and it paid off for me. Like I absolutely loved it. Maika Monroe is amazing. If you haven't seen It Follows, that was when I was first introduced to her. It probably wasn't her first role, but it was the first time I met her. As we talked before we started hitting record, is an STD ghost in It Follows. Spoilers. They're making a sequel. I'm assuming that she's in the sequel. So I'm excited about that, but she's great. Osgood Perkins directed it. He's currently about to drop The Monkey, which was the Stephen King short film. With the book cover was the monkey with the chimes, I didn't realize he was Anthony Perkins' son. I just thought Osgood Perkins was just someone with the same last name, but he is the son of Anthony Perkins, who was Psycho in the Psycho series. So that was cool. It was a little predictable. But when you're someone like me who watches, 10 plus movies a week, sometimes it's hard to surprise me. It's hard to throw a red herring my way and me still kind of follow it. There were certain things, I won't give too much away, you know, like I knew where Nicolas Cage was from the beginning, his character. Like I knew where he was. I don't know if you guys did or not, but it just seemed a little obvious. Um, One of the things that I kept hearing about the movie and people saying, like, that's the scariest character I've ever seen in my life. Nicolas Cage as Longlegs is the scariest character I've ever seen. False. Why is it false? Because it's fucking Nicolas Cage. I was going to play some audio, but we tested it. Didn't sound that great. But he sings in the movie. He sings. They put a chin on him and a nose, I believe, and threw baby powder on his face. They antiqued him, like from Jackass, the CKY. So he's pale, but it's Nicolas Cage. Is Nicolas Cage scary? No. Now, if you were downtown in a dark alley and you ran up on him, maybe a little scary. Like maybe early 90s, early 2000s, Nicolas Cage scary, but overall, he's not scary. But I loved him. And we talked about it probably when we did the Renfield episode. We need to just take a second and appreciate the fact that we are alive the same time as him because he is a revelation. He is a psycho. He is a fantastic actor. And we are in his renaissance. He's put out probably his best work in the last 10 or 15 years. This included Pig, Mandy, Color Out of Space. Like he is just hitting it on every level. Um, there was a video of Osgood Perkins being interviewed, and the sound guy from Longlegs came up to him. He said, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. He's like, what? He's like, Cage. Like when he's high, he goes right to that level, but he never goes over. So that level he stops at, if it goes over, he can't use that audio. So when he's high, he gets right where he has to be, and that's it. He never goes over. When he's low, same thing. He hits that bottom level and he never goes under it because it would be unusable. He knows where those levels are when he's going crazy and he's yelling and he's whispering. Like he's just amazing. If you take him out of this movie, I still like it, but I don't think I like it as much. I'm a Cager. Whatever his fans are called, I'm going to say we're called Cagers. He's just so good in everything. And I think now that I've met Barb, he's probably him, Bill Murray, Zach Braff. There's a few people. I think Nicolas Cage would probably be my number one person I would love to meet if he ever does a convention. Like, hopefully, he needs money again at some point, and instead of making shitty Dollar Tree movies, he decides to do some conventions because I'll pay whatever he's asking just to stand next to him. But overall, I really enjoyed this film. I made Lindsay watch it, which is kind of a testament to how much I liked it. Because obviously, I like a lot of movies. I'm the easiest person to please on this podcast, but I don't always make her watch movies that I love, especially horror movies, because it's not her thing. But this one, I'm like, you've got to watch this movie. It showed up on the website that we use, and we watched it, and she was scared, but she didn't hate it. So that's another testament to the film. But overall, absolutely loved it. I've watched it 3 times now. I will own it when it comes out, and I encourage everybody else to watch it too. But yeah, that's it for me. Let's see what John has to say.
I saw this, I think it was opening night, and the reaction of the theater to this movie was just nuts because like I don't think anybody knew what they were in for. I think a lot of people didn't. I did. Um, I was kind of like confused when I left just because it's kind of a tale of it's a movie where there's a lot of things that I really love in it, and then there's just some things in it that I think the hype was too high for me. And it's hard, when you hype something this much and it's called The Second Coming of Silence of the Lambs and all this stuff. It's hard to match that kind of hype. And I can understand where people come up with the Silence of the Lambs thing, but I don't really get that vibe that much after rewatching it again. Um, it's a little quirky and odd. Like the thing about the movie that makes it unique is also probably my criticism of it is that it's suspenseful, it's like a thriller, it's like a crime movie, it's a satanic film, but there's some quirky shit in it that happens that just is very odd, especially the ending. like when he winks and he goes, "Hail Satan." Like I see why he did it, but it's also just kind of like, I don't know. I kind of wanted to see a different movie. I wanted to see a movie where Nic Cage was this killer, and it was more like along the lines of maybe like a Zodiac, maybe that type of movie.
So you wanted
Um,
it darker than what it
I
what it
yeah,
ended up
I
being.
wanted more ground. I didn't really like the satanic angle. I thought that was kind of, I don't know what it is lately about satanic things in movies. Like everybody's got a hard on for the Satan stuff again. I don't know. It's weird because now it's usually the opposite, right? People try to go for like the more like unique themes or like elevated type ideas. And it's just really weird in 2024 someone's like doing satanic type stuff. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just really very much like a 1980s type take. Nic Cage, he does great. I mean, I don't even know how to describe him. It's kind of like it's a little bit of like Tiny Tim. It's a little bit of Marilyn Manson. It's
Little Willy Wonka. There's a little Willy Wonka in there.
yeah. I can't now. I hate saying this. I can't unsee Jennifer Coolidge. Someone said that to me. I cannot unsee Jennifer Coolidge now, especially the interrogation scene because he's all he looks pretty. I know that he said in an interview that one of the things that inspired him was his mom because when he was little he walked in on his mom putting her makeup on and she turned around and she had like this white powder stuff on and it freaked him out. So he said that part of that was in the character, which if you really watch it you can see it because there's definitely this like motherly energy to the, as weird as it is to say in the movie, like there's something about him that's like reminiscent of like an older mother. I know that's odd to say, but I could see where he would get that. That opening jump scare when he's like sitting there and he pops down, that is great. I mean, that was like a really brilliant jump scare. And the ending was interesting, like the satanic angle and just how the mom was in on it. And I swear, when at the very end, when Blair Underwood, when him and his wife were in the kitchen, and she goes, "I'll be right back. We're going to the kitchen." He goes, "I'll be right back. You'll still be in the kitchen." I swear, like half the theater started laughing at that because they knew that he was about to kill her, right? Um, but overall, atmospherically, it's awesome. It's a really pretty movie. The opening winter scene and like the way they use T-Rex in the movie, the band, it's like it's got a really cool, interesting atmosphere to it. So if people want to know, is it worth seeing? It's worth buying. Absolutely worth seeing. It's a really, really good movie. I just think that, personally, I don't know, like I like what they did, but I probably would have preferred they went more of a straight line Zodiac route because I just love to see Nic Cage do that. Not necessarily Silence of the Lambs, but I don't know. It would just be really interesting to see him take that on. One more thing I wanted to bring up was he is in a lot of satanic films, Nic Cage. So Mandy, Season of the Witch, Ghost Rider, Drive Angry, and this. Like, I think it's kind of funny that he somehow picks these scripts that are so satanic related. I don't know. I don't know if he's picked up on that or not. Maybe
Well,
he
his
doesn't even
son's a
think about
metalhead.
it.
His son's a metalhead, so maybe he kind of like pushes him towards those roles. I love
Yeah.
Drive Angry. I think that one has terrible
Yeah.
reviews, but that's such a fun flick.
Oh, it's good. I like Drive Angry. It's not bad at all. But I think, and the thing about this movie is like you were saying, Nic Cage, he's creepy, but the more you see him, the less scary it becomes. I think that was my one criticism was they just showed him. I mean, he's still creepy. Even that interrogation scene, the way he goes high and he goes low, it's freaky. But I don't know. It's hard because we know Nic Cage so well. So the minute he starts singing, you're just like, oh, there he is. Like you just know it's Nick, right?
Yeah.
So overall, I really like it. I think there were just a few things for me, like the quirkiness and the way they did the character. I wish they would have done it a little differently, but yeah.
He
So
was definitely scary when you didn't see all of him. That's
yeah,
when he was at his scariest for sure. I didn't realize that he had any say in what he looked like. So that's
yeah,
interesting that he got to pick. Hey, I think I'm just gonna put a little powder on my face.
right, exactly. What
It
do you
was
think?
yeah, it was Okay, back on what Jay said, the Renaissance is in full swing, and I'm here for it. Nic Cage is goated. I was thinking after watching this, I was like, he's a national treasure, just like Bob Ross, Dolly Parton. He's our crazy spastic uncle that shows up to Thanksgiving, dry humps the turkey, passes out on the couch after too many Jack and Cokes. I mean, he's that uncle that as a kid you just can't wait until he shows up because he's going to do some crazy shit. He's going to give you $1 for doing something sketchy. And you're just going to have a great time and lots of great memories. So, like Jay said, without Nic Cage, this movie probably falls a little flat. It probably is a mid-grade movie. Nic Cage brings it to the next level. Micah Monroe, she was fantastic, but I also didn't like her, and that was my whole feeling through this whole movie. Is I don't know how to feel.
Was she autistic? What was
So,
like the
She
deal with her?
was.
I
Yeah.
felt like it. Well, I mean, they make it like she was kind of like under that trance.
Right.
When the mom shoots that doll and the black smoke comes out, and you see a little black plume kind of escape from her, and she passes out. Because she had a lot more emotion following that. When she woke up, she was, tearful eyed. And I mean, because they established that she's kind of emotionally mute from the beginning when her partner gets shot in the head when they come to the house. Yeah, she was shocked, and she was obviously in shock, but there wasn't like, she wasn't crying. She didn't really have an emotional reaction other than just being in shock, and almost a little panic that he just got shot in the head. But she was basically, and I guess it's because of the hearing the comparisons to Silence of the Lambs. She was basically kind of like Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory meets Clarice Starling. She was kind of like a robotic version of Clarice. Very intuitive, very smart, very capable, but just something was so stunted about her that it made it hard to really fall into her character. And that's what was so special about Silence of the Lambs is you were bought into the characters. And the only character in this movie you really get bought into is Longlegs, is Nic Cage, because it's Nic Cage. Right. You don't really care about any of the other characters. Like you said in the movie, when Blair Underwood, Agent Carter, when he basically murders his wife, they laughed at the line that he said. And if you're really invested in those characters, it's going to be more of a shock than that was a good one. He's going to murder his wife because you didn't care. They never established that you cared about really any kind of emotional involvement to the characters because they were just kind of flat, which is odd because everybody acted so well. The cast is incredible. Nic Cage, Micah Monroe, Alicia Witt is fantastic in everything I see her in. Kiernan Shipka, she was fantastic as Sabrina. She was super creepy.
That was the one role. I didn't realize that was her. I thought that was Jenna Malone when I saw that movie. And then Kieran on Instagram shared a picture of her. Like, I'm like, holy shit! Like, that's how well she made that character. Because I had no idea that was her. Yeah, and then Blair Underwood, who's always great as well. I mean, it was a great cast. The cinematography is perfect for this kind of film. It fits in with the Silence of the Lambs, the Lovely Bones, that style of kind of muted drama. And I mean muted as in the colors are muted. Everything's meant to be very I don't know if sad's the word, but very toned down, kind of like the character in Lee Harker, the female FBI agent in this. It's meant to be darker, not, you don't want bright lights and flashing colors and stuff like that when you're dealing with families being murdered. But I agree with what John said. John said something, and I hadn't thought about that. And I was like, that would have put this movie, to me, it would have made this closer to a possible classic, is if it would have shown him almost a la Buffalo Bill style, a little more creepy than just the few times that we see him. I think the first reveal is beautifully done. You catch just enough glimpse of him to be almost shocking, because you don't know what to take in. It's so quick when he first reveals himself in that real fast clip early in the movie to the young Lee.
that it pulls you in right then. Like, oh my god, what was that? What's going on with him? What's wrong with him? What is happening? The way that they capture him, I thought was fantastic. Instead of some big manhunt, he's literally trying to get on a bus, and they show up, and he just puts his hands up and surrenders. Like he knew he was, that was it. There was no point in fighting. The way he, spoilers, the way he murks himself in the interrogation room was horrifying. It was reminiscent of the bottle scene in Pan's Labyrinth. When he finally looks up and his nose is gone, before he finally falls over dead. But I feel like there should have been more. What's the name? Black Phone. I feel like you should have had more of Nic Cage being a creepy killer and less of him being basically what amounts to a facilitator. And that's what he is. He's a facilitator for the devil, which we get a glimpse of Satan or the devil or whatever kind of evil entity is running the show in the house scene. When we see Lee's mother on the floor, you see that cloaked figure with the bright eyes sitting there, and you understand that, okay, so this isn't Longlegs, this isn't Nic Cage that's killing these people. He's facilitating it on behalf of something else. So I think that kind of takes away from it. I did like a little bit of the supernatural twist. But it's almost like it's a movie that didn't really buy into any one thing. I mean, you've got the supernatural aspect where these families are basically being controlled by this evil in a way that makes them kill each other. And then you're trying to hunt down a killer who actually isn't a killer. He's just setting everything up for Satan to kill these people through some kind of demonic possession. So that part just didn't hit for me. I felt like they should have just leaned harder into one direction or the other. They could have had the satanic elements and almost given him like a little bit of supernatural ability, like the movie Split. That was the big twist in that, is that he actually did end up having supernatural powers. So I feel like they could have maybe given him a little bit of kind of special ability through Satan, but I think it should have leaned more into him actually being the killer, because he is terrifying to look at. Even if it's Nicolas Cage, if you saw that human being walking down the road, you would walk to the other side of the road. Not today. And again, it's one of those roles that was perfect for him during his acting renaissance, where instead of him being in more traditional roles like or traditional action hero or leading man roles like Con Air and what's the movie, The Rock, instead of him being or even National Treasure movies where he's more of a, well, to use the term again, muted version of himself. When Nic Cage gets to just go full Nic Cage, it's always special. Even in Willy's Wonderland, where he doesn't have a line of dialogue in that whole movie, it's special because Nic Cage is just so charismatic. And to answer the question from Community, yes, Nic Cage is a good actor. He has taken some roles that are terrible roles, which makes it look like he can't act. And there's definitely been some questionable choices in his acting career, but you put him in some of his greatest roles against any other great actor, and he's going to be up there in the top 5% of male actors of the last 40 years. You can't deny that Nic Cage, when he is at his best, is an A-tier actor. Possibly, I mean, I would even go as far as to say S-tier. He has that ability to just absolutely take over a role, take over a movie, and that's kind of what he could have done in this if they would have expanded that. So all that to say, I didn't not like the movie. I did. It was an enjoyable watch. I just don't know how I feel about it overall. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, the acting's great. Like, everything's there for it to have been great, but it just missed on a couple of things in such a way where it was like, I mean, I'd recommend people to watch it, but it's not going to be one where I'm like, oh, you've got to see this. I'd be like, oh yeah, you should watch it.
Yeah.
So
I think we
that's me.
all would love more Nicolas Cage, and I wonder if part of the reason they didn't do that is because it is Nicolas Cage, and like we touched on, like we still know it's him, so it's kind of hard to fear that character.
But you did it with Ethan Hawke in Black Phone, and we all I mean, Ethan Hawke's a very beloved actor, but you made him play. I mean, the scene with him shirtless with that mask on, waiting for the kid to come upstairs so he can abuse him, is horrifying. And that's not Ethan Hawke, but it is Ethan Hawke in that role, and we still, buy in. I think Nicolas Cage. I think they should have just let him go full Cage for at least 10 more minutes in this movie.
Have you ever seen Ethan Hawke in a movie where he was zany though?
No, but I mean,
I don't think so.
That's a little bit of the difference too. I think
the zaniness could have worked for that style of killer, because that was super creepy, especially if he's preying on kids. They have the scene where he's there with the kid putting the cloak on her, and I think that almost like a Willy Wonka kind of thing, but like an evil Willy Wonka.
Well, he already had jazz hands because he was like doing this type thing.
Oh man, first of all, Blair Underwood was perfect in this.
He was great.
He was so good. You don't see him a lot. I don't, but the opening
scene
is
the 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, the opening scene is probably my favorite scene, where he peeks out from the house. I don't know what he's like, ooh, like something, and you just kind of see him because it's so far in the distance. Lindsay didn't catch it when we watched it. I'm like, that scene is phenomenal. Just that scene alone. I don't know. I kind of disagree about the supernatural thing. I'm kind of glad he didn't have it. I think if he did, it would just kind of go the route of other movies that kind of do the same thing. Mm-hmm. I liked it more as him being a facilitator for Satan, because, Satan comes and you're going to do the devil's work. You don't necessarily get powers. You just do what you're told, which is what he was doing. So I like that. I kind of like that aspect of it. One thing I didn't talk about is you see the devil or a demonic figure up to 15 times in this movie in the background. I caught maybe 4 or 5. The one, when I saw it in theaters, I text John. I'm like, when she was in the house, which is probably one of the most stressful scenes, is when she's home by herself. She goes outside like a psychopath. And then you turn around and Nicolas Cage is in the house. But the figure she saw in the woods was a satanic figure. And then when she's there in the background, you can see the horns, like a Baphomet type figure behind her. But that happens 15 times in the movie. I like that too. It reminded me of House on Haunted Hill, the series, where there's like 300 ghosts or something in the entire series. I'm like, what the hell?
Haunting of Hill House.
Like 10. Yeah. There were so many ghosts in this. I like that. That was just good filmmaking to me. But yeah. All right, let's go around and we'll give our rankings and then we'll close up shop. I gave it a 4.5 the first time I watched it. I gave it a 4.5 the second time I watched it. Third time, I kind of decided to keep it at 4.5. So 4.5 for me. It's not close to a 5 though. See what I'm saying? Like, it's a 4.5 for me, but I'm never going to make it a 5. That's it's hard to quantify that, but it's closer to 4 and 5. But I stick with my 4.5. John.
Yeah, when they first said his name, what was it? He was like Dale Cobble. All I could think about for 5 minutes was Oswald Cobblepot, like the penguin. I just could not get it out of my head. Cobble's kind of a cool name for a killer. Yeah, I think that scene at the house with her is terrifying. That was the scariest scene in the movie to me, because you just didn't know what was going to happen. And I do want to bring this up before I give the rating. 2 movies that I really recommend from Nicolas Cage that I know you guys are going to be like, what the fuck? Valley Girl and A Honeymoon in Vegas.
Oh yeah, I mean, any Nicolas Cage besides the ones that you can find at your local Dollar Tree are phenomenal. When he was making movies just to pay off his debts, started off hot, he cooled down, he's back hot again. Like, any Nicolas Cage movie that wasn't direct to video, watch it.
Oh yeah, it's great. So his comedies were so underrated too. I love them.
Oh, Raising Arizona is a 5-star movie for me.
Oh,
Raising
absolutely.
Arizona
Love
is
it.
perfection.
I saw a post recently, like movies to watch if you like Longlegs, and the vampire one was on there.
Vampire's Kiss.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand why. I don't know if it's just because it's him.
Yeah.
I'm like, that movie doesn't have anything to like. I don't know. It had to be just because he was in it and he was zany. But
yeah, so I did not like this as much as Abigail. This movie initially for me was a 3.5 out of 5, but objectively, like watching it again and kind of like how unique it was, I'm gonna give it a 4. Honestly, I think I like Abigail more, but I do think this is a 4-star movie. So
You're triggering the third party over there saying Abigail so many times.
Yeah, wow. Comparing this to Abigail, what a comparing apples to dog shit. This, and like I said, it's hard. It was hard for me to give this a rating because, like I said, I just couldn't pinpoint exactly why I didn't fully enjoy it. But I also enjoyed it. I don't know how to explain it. I thought the acting was good, the cinematography was good. It was just there was something that just never really I never was able to fully buy into the movie. I think I was also kind of disappointed that this FBI agent had the chance to stop the last murders, and she basically left that girl an orphan because she just wanted to sit there. And then the what didn't make sense, and I forgot to touch on this, and I'll give my rating. But what didn't make sense is that the mom was willing to stab the daughter that she was quote unquote doing this for, so that she would live. Was willing to stab and kill her basically to prevent her from not allowing her.
Maybe she was just going to stab and maim though. Like she could have, stabbed her legs where she couldn't move. Like could have
long legs.
Stabbed her right in her long legs.
Might not have killed her. That's the biggest talk about this movie. No one had long legs.
Well, I think
that would have been a funny ending though if she'd have been like, "Got you in your long legs," and stabbed her in the leg.
What is the moral of the story though? Satanism is bad. Satan is bad.
Hail Satan. I don't
Hail
know.
Satan. That's what I couldn't figure out. What is the moral of the story?
Well, and again, there was so much in the movie that they just didn't explain. How did he make the little ball that he was able to put whatever spirit in?
Well, maybe that was the supernatural element that he had. Like that was his power. He could put inside that, or Satan gave him that. But
yeah, I just think that there was just parts that just didn't quite hit home for me. And so for that, strictly because Nic Cage is I love him and I wish that he was my dad, but I'll give it a 3.
I think the moral of the story is don't accept gifts from a church.
Especially creepy porcelain dolls. Never accept any kind of doll from anybody.
No, don't.
All right, that puts us at a 4. Yeah, I don't know. There was a lot that left you questioning things. So I get that part of it for sure, but I think just the beauty of it and the acting, just I didn't care, like
it's kind of like Lost minus last episode,
right? And the ball thing, I kind of forgot about that. That is an interesting thing. Like the only thing I could assume is that maybe Satan gave it to him,
yeah,
and he put him in the dolls, like that was part of his contract or whatever it was. But anyways. All right, Longlegs, directed by Osgood Perkins, 2024. We give it a 4 out of 5, thanks to Kellen's low rating, but I digress. So that's going to be it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to wherever you're listening to this podcast. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. If you have Amazon Music, we have a playlist. And join us next week for whatever movie we're talking about. Oh, one of the most annoying things from this film is Micah Monroe's breathing. She's trying to sneak up on everybody going, and I get it. She's stressed. It's a high pressure situation, but she was breathing so fucking loud, dude.
She was.
Like,
yes.
She's not going to sneak up on anybody.
No.
It was like she had the microphone in her mouth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, speaking of microphone, if you haven't seen the video, there's a video of her seeing Nicolas Cage as Longlegs for the first time, and she's mic'd up, and her heart rate like quadruples as soon as she enters that room and sees him. Like it's just like normal heartbeat. She closes the door, she puts her back against it, she sets eyes on him. It's like like it just keeps getting faster and faster. So in real life, he was probably a lot creepier than he was on film. But seek out that video. I'm sure I will post it this week, anyways, in our reels. So signing off, I'm Jay with John and Kellen, and until next time,
keep it spooky.
and put on your long legs. I guess long legs was just supposed to be like they stretch down to hell.
Yeah.
Like he's in hell and he's, I don't know.
Plus the opening, he was so tall and she's a little girl. I think it was like a play on that word, like when he was talking to her.
What
It
if
was-
his
I
power
put
was he
on
turned
my
into a
long
fucking
legs.
spider at the end? Has anybody the alien movie that came out last year with the girl from 8th grade? Whereas I can't think of that. It's an alien film. It was Hulu. It didn't even go to theaters. And the aliens,
No, God,
No One Will
yes.
Save You?
No One Will Save You. Yeah, that's it.
So,
That's it.
Kellen, you haven't seen that?
No.
I mean, it's aliens. It's clearly aliens. There's not a big spoiler, but at the end, there's a giant alien with giant long legs. Like, what if he turned into like some weird spider creature? Like the end of
Wait.
It
No One Will Save You. Is that the one where it's basically her for most of the film?
in the
and
house, and it's amazing. And then she gets
each-
out of the house and it drops.
Yep.
Each alien gets progressively weirder or creepier and
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did watch that. I did. That was I actually enjoyed that.
It was good. But
Yeah.
again, the house stuff was so much better than the rest of the film.
Too much CGI was the big problem
Yeah.
too. So, did you guys think that? And I heard this. I didn't think it, but did you think that Longlegs Cobble was Michael Monroe's dad? Someone
did
kept
feel like-
saying that, and I didn't notice that. But
I never thought that. No, I can't say that I did.
I did until the mom said, "What are you doing talking to my daughter?" And it felt like she didn't know who he was.
right.
But up until that moment, yeah, I felt like he's definitely.
Also, if
That's
his
why
name is
she has
Cobble,
connection.
what if when he killed someone instead of having them do it themselves, he said it's cobbling time? I'll see myself out.
There you go.